All right, folks, so what's coming up next for Canadian real estate market? There's a lot to untangle and a lot to talk about, and I'll try to fit it in this 10 to 15 minute video. However, we are in a period of time at the moment that Canadians are slowly realizing and understanding that it's not going to be an easy ride anymore, right? If you spoke to many Canadians, let's say 2 years ago, the optimism was there. And I believe that it has to do with their maybe savings or their, I would say, line of credit accounts or their debt bank reserves that they could dip into. And slowly that has been kind of disappearing, or it has been kind of reaching its limits, right? And if you ask by some statistics out there that 16% of Canadians believe that, you know what, today, if you ask them what would happen in the next 6 months, they would say, well, you know what, like in the next 6 months, you know, the economy will somehow recover or stay flat for whatever reason. But everybody else is now realizing, because the consciousness or their empty pockets is telling them that, look, like, it's not going to change and it will get much worse. So what I would like to talk about is about the actual prices falling and buyers not buying, right? And why is that, right? Because the common, I would say, behavior is whenever you have banks lowering interest rates and you have real estate prices further down or decline, that's a fantastic opportunity for many investors or buyers to actually get into the market, scoop up whatever needs to be scooped up. But it's not happening, or at least it's not happening to that extent. And we ask why. Well, I think another attachment to that question would be, well, are they, or do they believe that it will fall further? So the investors and the current buyers believe that there's definitely more room for the prices to feather down. So when I was making videos years ago, I said at that time, I said, look, the prices will go down, you know, depending on the community, area, city, town, you know, Toronto, GTA, depending, right? Like, I mean, every product, every house has its own price tag. But I said, you know, between 15 to 30%. So now I'm making the video claiming again that it might be another 30% from today's price. And how do I justify that? I mean, it's hard to justify, but just making it simple, simple future trajectory line, the atmosphere, the financial situation, and everything else that has been going on, I just throw a number out there. I say it's probably another 30%, because people are realizing slowly that it's not going to recover. And one of the big years for many analysts and many people claiming they know it all said 2025 is probably the year where everything will return. Therefore, many investors, many people holding on to real estate or to heavy burdens decided to stay in it for a lot longer and wait till 2025, because at that point everything will recover. And then the excuse was tariffs, because they said, like, hey, look, because of that this happened, and because of this that happened, right? So everybody started throwing the can or kicking the can further a little bit longer, right? So I think that game is over now. Like there's no more going back. The wall has been hit, and one of the indicator is that in August to September in Toronto, listings doubled. Guys, that's not a joke. So why is that? Because the human psychology or observation or the behavioral patterns, we usually think alike, smell alike, look alike, whatever, right? So we will behave like everyone else, right? And everyone had the best idea with their, investors and realtors and bankers, and everybody said, look, man, wait till September because it's the fall market and this is the best time. So guess what? Everyone had the identical idea. So therefore, we have seen a 50% gain, in our listing market in Toronto. So that actually, creates another bottleneck situation, creates more stress on buyers, on the banks, because the banks have to secure their mortgages and stuff like that. Like they will not give you a mortgage just because. They're also evaluating how things will play out in the future, and they want to make sure that you can pay that mortgage, right? So all of those things have to do with the fact that people are now, I believe, slowly entering the panic mode, right? And they don't know what to do, right? Like I'll give you some examples. Like I spoke to a person, he's from Philippines, and I know many people from the Philippines, and I know it's a complete chaos in Philippines. There's earthquakes happening left, right, and centers. These guys are dealing with some, 7.5, 6.5, earthquakes and hurricanes and all of that stuff. It's crazy, right? So they're dealing with a lot over there, right? And I spoke with this gentleman here. He's been in Canada for 30 years, and he said, like, look, it's not the Canada that I remember, right? Like, and he's having a extreme hard time kind of dealing with the finances and whatnot. And he even said, like, look, like, I have a better job than I had, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. I'm making more, and I still cannot make it work, right? So spoke to another gentleman, has a condo in Calgary, right? That condo in Calgary, beautiful, this and that, bought brand new. Spoke to a couple of agents in Calgary, Alberta, right? And they're saying, well, we're still kind of okay, a lot more inventory coming online and whatnot. And I asked her, I'm like, look, do you know that majority of these properties have been purchased from Ontario and BC? That's Ontario and British Columbia money, right? So yes, they had to either pay cash or be creative or whatever, but that's where the money came from. So that's why, Ontario and British Columbia is suffering that much, because we are here kind of being bombarded from left, right, and center, right? So this gentleman is trying to pull out of this particular condo in Alberta, and he's having a hard time. And he's having a hard time because crazy inventory, crazy inventory, and he cannot offload it. And even if he does, like he will have negative, I would say, earnings or whatever, right? Like there's no benefit. Like he literally was just like kicking the can, right? So I think overall, Canadians are hitting that threshold where it's like, what is it gonna be? And I think whoever is over leveraged in 2026 will hit that particular threshold or that moment, and I heard something from a subscriber and they commented on the channel. They said like, look, when prices are going up, it's like being in an elevator, but when the prices are going down, they're sticky. It's like walking down the stairs. And I thought about that, right? And they're technically right in a way. However, I think they did install another Canadian elevator for all of the Canadians that they can hop on and they can get to the lobby or to the ground much faster. So I think that problem will be solved. But anyways, like, I would like to wrap it here, and I hope you gain some value out of this. Please comment below. It means a lot to when you share your experiences or your beliefs or what you see or think. So it helps the algorithm. If you like it, share it, and I definitely will see you in the next one.